So breaking news at 4 o'clock, a guilty verdict just handed out in the Jam Master Jay murder trial.
News 4, Erica Bayfield, live outside of court in Lower Manhattan with these breaking details. Erica?
That's right, Natalie. There are actually 2 defendants in this case. Both of them found guilty on the 2 counts that are in this case. One of them related to a drug conspiracy charge and murder. The other one related to a weapons charge in addition to that murder. The person they are accused of murdering is Jam Master Jay. He's the prolific hip-hop DJ associated with the group Run DMC. I tell you, this trial lasted about a month or so. There were some fireworks actually after this verdict was read inside the courtroom today. This happened today around 3:30 this afternoon. One of the defendants jumped up and said, "Y'all just killed some innocent people." And then he shouted, "Get me out of here." As he was being escorted out of the courtroom, the other co-defendant in this case, he yelled out, "I love y'all," addressing his family that was there in the courtroom. And then we heard many of his family members start yelling things back like, "The jury didn't listen to the facts in this case," a woman yelled out. "That's my son." We started hearing, "Don't touch me." You all know he didn't do that. That is when the U.S. Marshals swooped in. There was some pushing, there was a little bit of shoving, and then they escorted all of those family members out of the courtroom. So it was kind of chaotic there at the very end. But again, this case revolves around the murder of Jam Master Jay. He was killed in October of 2002. And he actually was in his Queens recording studio at the time. Now for years, the 2 witnesses to this crime, they refused to say what they saw. Both Ladia High and Tony Rincon testified, though, at this trial, and they told the jurors that they saw 2 gunmen that night. They say that Jam Master Jay's godson, Carl Jordan Jr., pulled the trigger, and Jay's good friend, childhood buddy, Ronald Washington, was the one at the door with another gun. High and Rincon's testimony obviously must have been quite an impact here on this jury. They said for a long time they didn't speak up and say what they knew at the time because they were scared. They were afraid for their lives. The federal prosecutors in this case ultimately charged 3 people in addition to Jordan and Washington. They charged a 3rd man who was going to be tried separately. That person was also there at the scene, but they say he was just a decoy that night, so that Jordan and Washington could slip inside the recording studio and kill Jam Master Jay. The prosecutor said all along they think the motive for this was greed and revenge because Mizzle, that is Jam Master Jay's real name, Jason Mizzle, cut Jordan and Washington out of a drug deal. So again, this jury made a decision. And just a short time ago, and actually right now, maybe it just wrapped up seconds ago, a family member of Jam Master Jay was here and he was speaking to the media. Here's what he told us.
Jason himself was an amazing talent. His life ended far, far too soon, and I'm glad that justice was served.
So for most of this trial, he sat there, right there, in the front row, sitting probably the closest out of all of us to the jury. I was normally in the 2nd or 3rd row, and I saw him taking notes. He is one of the 2 cousins who are here. That is because Jam Master Jay's immediate family, all of them, are deceased. So he said he wanted to be here as a representative for what is happening with this family. I told you about the chaos that happened in the courtroom. We have not seen those family members of the defendant, Jordan, come out yet. We're waiting to see what will happen there, but again, very chaotic at the end. We're waiting to see what happened, and we are expecting additional speakers to come out and tell us about their thoughts on this case. And we will bring you those interviews just as soon as we get them. Reporting live in Brooklyn, Erica Bayfield, News 4, New York.
Guilty of murder in the killing of Run DMC's Jam Master Jay. Jurors found Carl Jordan Jr., Jay's godson, and Ronald Washington, Jay's childhood friend, guilty on all counts. Prosecutors say the murder was in retaliation for being cut out of a drug deal.
For more than 2 decades, it remained one of the music industry's biggest unsolved mysteries. Eyewitness News reporter Darla Miles has followed this case for years.
We begin with NJ Burkett, though, at the courthouse in downtown Brooklyn. NJ.
Right, Joe, the hip-hop star's family spent years wondering if they would ever see this day. Some of them never lived to see it. But yes, the verdict is guilty in all counts in the execution-style murder of Jam Master Jay back in October of 2002. His name is Jason Mizell, the hip-hop pioneer who joined Run DMC to bring rap and hip-hop into the mainstream back in the 1980s. But years later, his fame was fading, and the money was running out, so he turned to cocaine trafficking, according to prosecutors. His 2 friends, Carl Jordan and Ronald Washington, were charged with murdering Mizell after they learned that they were about to be cut out of a $200,000 drug deal. There was no forensic evidence and no surveillance video at the crime scene where Mizell was gunned down in his own recording studio in Queens. The jury heard from 2 people who were there and identified both men, but defense attorneys insisted that the testimony was too old and unreliable to be believed, and the motive, they insisted, was weak. But the jury here clearly disagreed. The deliberations were over in a matter of hours. Both men guilty on the murder counts against them. A cousin of Jason Mizell spoke with reporters here just a short time ago.
Jason was an amazing, talent. He loved everybody. He was, he could never say no. And that's one of the reasons why some of the people around him were undesirables, if you will, because he just didn't push people away. He loved everybody, and he just couldn't say no. And I think that this contributed to this where we're at today.
Now, in a statement released late this afternoon, NYPD Commissioner Edward Caban praised the family for being patient, saying, quote, "We hope that the jury's decision will advance a small measure of closure." Again, both defendants guilty on both murder counts against them. Live at U.S. District Court in downtown Brooklyn, NJ Burkett, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
Carl Jordan, also known as Little D and Noid, and Ronald Washington, also known as Tennard, were each charged with 1 count of murder while engaged in narcotics trafficking and 1 count firearm-related murder for the fatal shooting of Jam Master Jay, whose real name was Jason Mizell. As part of the 10-count indictment, Jordan was also charged in August 2020 with 1 count of conspiracy to distribute cocaine and 7 counts of cocaine distribution. Both defendants had pled not guilty, and the defense attorneys for Jordan and Washington argued during closing arguments on Wednesday that there is no physical evidence linking their clients to the fatal shooting, according to New York ABC station WABC. Now, the attorneys pointed the finger at the 3rd man who was charged in a fatal shooting per WABC, who is expected to face trial in 2025. ABC News reached out to the attorneys representing Jordan and Washington for further comment, but requests were not returned. Each defendant is facing a minimum of 20 years to life in prison or the death penalty. Yet another one that got less time than Nature Boy. According to the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of New York, which prosecuted this case. Now, prosecutors claimed during the trial, which began in January 29th, that Mizzle was murdered by Jordan in Washington, who was Mizzle's childhood friend, because the famed DJ allegedly was going to cut him off out of a cocaine distribution deal. Approximately 10 kilos of cocaine acquired from a narcotics supplier in the Midwest. The two defendants were going to be cut out of the lucrative deal because of a drug dealer later identified as Ralph Mulgrave declined to work with Washington, according to the Associated Press. Mulgrave, who testified during the trial, claimed that Mizzle was not a drug dealer, but had dabbled in drug sales to make ends meet. That was a claim that the DJ's family disputes, according to the AP. Now, prosecutors allege that an armed Washington and Jordan entered Mizzle's recording studio, 24/7 studio on Merrick Boulevard in Jamaica, Queens, around 7:30 p.m. on October the 30th of 2002. Once in the studio, Washington pointed his firearm at an individual and demanded that they lie on the floor, while Jordan fired shots at Mizzle at close range, with the fatal shot striking him in the head and another hitting him in the leg. Prosecutors said in a statement announcing the indictment, the defendants allegedly carried out the cold-blood murder of Jason Mizzle, a brazen act that has finally caught up with them thanks to the dedicated detectives, agents, and prosecutors who never gave up on this case. Acting U.S. attorneys Seth Ducharme said in a statement announcing the charges. Mizzle rose to fame in the 1980s as part of the pioneering hip-hop trio Run DMC, which was founded in 1983 with Joseph Rev Run Simmons and Daryl McDaniels. The group was inducted into the Rock Hall of Fame in 2009 and received rap's first Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award in 2016. ABC 7's Dollar Miles reveals exclusive new details and insights into the complicated legacy of the rap pioneer. In the documentary, Set the Record Straight, the Jam Master Jay case.
I never thought that he would grow up to be a DJ.
Jay was the centerpiece of the stage.
He would cut that run. We're from Run DMC and we support Joe Clark 100%.
They were like superheroes to us.
Breaking news, a member of Run DMC is dead.
Someone hit me on the phone and he said to me, like, did you hear about Jay? And I was like, nah, what happened to Jay?
He walked right over to Jay and fired a round immediately, without any conversation at all.
I went inside the studio. Lydia was in there on the floor crying. Tony Rucon was on the couch, shot, and Jay was on the floor dead.
I just want to tell everybody we thank everybody for all their support and their condolences.
Is that normal for an investigation like this, for all of these conflicting theories to be out there at one time, complicating an investigation?
We're making my client the main suspect in this case. If he's the main suspect, he's not talking.
There were some threats to some of our witnesses.
He goes, I'm going to go in your car and take her out. And I'm like, no, you're not.
No crime happens without some form of witness.
Nobody wants to see Running DMC without Jay.
There was a perception at the time and even now that the NYPD didn't care about Jam Master Jay's murder because he was a black rapper.
But if he was someone else, oh, they would have had the person. No doubt.
A grand jury returned an indictment charging two defendants.
It's such a weak date homicide case that they didn't bring it over the last 20 years.
Whoever they said is doing it, did they really do it?
Do you remember remember where you were the first time you heard that Jam Master Jay had been killed?
22 years later, Run DMC's Jam Master Jay receives justice.